Okay, so I kind of want to go ahead and get back into our coverage over the X-Men, right? And so we got to go ahead and continue our coverage over Wolverine. And we do pick up with issue number 86. Here's the thing though. I kind of feel like when it comes to Larry Hama, that this storyline was supposed to be given to us before the Phalanx Covenant crossover. And the reason why, because this issue alone really does focus more on Albert and LCD. Now, we have talked a lot about these characters in the earlier parts of our coverage over the X-Men. So let's go ahead and wind the clock back. You see, there was a time where you had a guy known as Donald Pierce who was a Reaver, or the leader of the Reavers, a group of characters who were just cyborgs. And their main goal was to go after the mutant race. Now, there was a period in time where his main target was still the mutants, but really Wolverine. And so you had Donald Pierce go out of his way to create two different robots, LCD and Albert. Now, LCD is a small little girl robot, and Albert is just a robotic version of Wolverine. Now, originally, they were the bad guys for Logan, but then over a while, they became his allies. Now, there was a period in time where they had just disappeared. We had no idea where in the world they had went to. But then, in a recent video, you have Bloodscreen being able to find the two characters. He's kind of like, who are you guys? Now remember, Bloodscreen is an enemy of Wolverine. By the way, I had somebody say, hey, it's Bloodsport, not Bloodscreen. There was a change in his name like from that point in time to this point in time. So at this point in Marvel Comics, he's no longer Bloodsport. He's just Bloodscream. Either way, he had tricked LCD and Albert into believing that he is an ally of Logan and trying his best to find Logan. And so for LCD and Albert, they're really down with the idea of helping Bloodsport find Wolverine. Sorry, Bloodscream. But here is the catch though. You see, we were told by LCD and also Albert that they were lost in time. Now, that is a callback to an earlier storyline when it came to Wolverine, Mystique, and also Spyro fighting against Mojo and like across time. And when you had LCD and Albert helping out, they saw the skeleton of Wolverine, but in the past. So they were kind of confused on how in the world could the skeleton of Wolverine be in the past when he's alive in the current time. And so you have those two characters go into the past to figure out what in the world was going on. Now, that storyline took place a long time ago, so they had been missing for a good period of time until you had Bloodscreen find them and being able to turn them back on. Like, hey, what are you guys and where have you been? And so this issue alone explains the whole idea of them being lost in time. What's crazy is because as we get into the opening page of this issue, we kind of get the idea our three heroes were still looking for Wolverine in the current time, but they had arrived at Muir Island right after the ending of the Phalanx Covenant crossover. And so when they arrive, the entire island has been wrecked. But they can't find Wolverine because Wolverine had left with Cable, Jean Grey, and Cyclops to go fight against the Phalanx. Now, while you have our three characters there, you didn't have LCD bring up the whole idea of them being lost in time. And so this leads us into that storyline. And so their story begins with them landing in the 18th century. Now, when they did, they had landed right in the middle of a battle between two different Native American tribes. Now, one of the tribes is being led by a character known as Man-Killer Wolf. Now, Man-Killer Wolf might play a major role in the storyline, but once you do have our heroes being able to severely injure Man-Killer Wolf, he retreats. And so does his followers as well. But right after that, you didn't have our three characters be confronted by, well, Forge. And so you have our heroes wondering, how in the world is this possible? Because this is Forge, who's much older than our present day Forge, but somehow right now in the 18th century. Now for Forge, he does remember LCD and also Albert very well because in Wolverine number 40, you had these three characters, including Wolverine, team up together. But you do have Forge say, come inside, let's talk, and I'll explain what's going on with me and everything else in this area as well. So we kind of find out that yes, this is Forge, but Forge from 10 years from the present day in our coverage over the X-Men. He also brought Wolverine alongside with him. So both characters are from 10 years in the future. Now, the reason why they came back in time because in their future, things have gone dark once again, but this time because of a character known as Adversary. You see, when it comes to Adversary, he is this demonic being from a different dimension whose main goal is to destroy the entire universe so that he didn't have the ability to recreate it in his own image. But here's the thing though, you have Forge tell us the Adversary went back in time this time to plant the seeds to allow a domino effects of different things happening throughout time that would lead into the dark future that Forge and Wolverine came from. So they had traveled back in time to stop the Adversary to hopefully change their future into something better. So yes, that's why we have Forge and Wolverine who are 10 years older. Now, for Man-Killer Wolf, he does go back to his camp, and when he does inform the Adversary that he had, well, basically failed. Now, you have the Adversary technically heal up the body of Man-Killer Wolf, but also possesses him so that he can use him to kill off Wolverine and Forge to be able to accomplish his goal. And so it does lead into a battle between our heroes and the Adversary. Now, this battle is very short. And the only reason why, because you have Forge being able to set the Adversary on fire. And so with that happening, you have the Adversary just leave. He leaves for the time being. But for Wolverine and Forge, they say, you know what? Let's go ahead and try to follow him and hopefully stop him. Now, Albert and Elsie, they want to help out Forge and also Wolverine. They say, no, we need you guys to stay behind and watch out for this tribe. And so, of course, you do have LCD and Albert agree to stay behind to protect the tribe. And so with Albert and also LCD staying behind, you did have the tribe decided that Albert should go through some set of tests to kind of prove he should be a worthy leader. Now for Albert here, with him being a robotic version of Wolverine, really just being a cyborg, he was able to go through all the different tests unharmed. And so after doing that, you didn't have the tribe go ahead and decided that he should be their new leader, and also giving him a very special kind of sword. Now, with all that being said, you did have our hero see a huge flash of light in the sky, in the same area that Forge and Wolverine went over to. Except when they arrived, they couldn't find Forge nor Wolverine. And so they're kind of like, where in the world did they go to? And so you had LCD and Albert continue on to hopefully find Wolverine or Forge. But the thing was, years passed by and their batteries ran out. And so when it came to Bloodscreen finding them in the present day, because their batteries had just ran out dry, and that was really it. But either way, you have LCD saying, we never found Wolverine or Forge at all. But now we have to jump into the far future. And when we do, we pick up with, well, Wolverine trying his best to get away from a robot that was created to hunt down mutants in the far future. And no, they're not Sentinels. They're a different kind of robot. But either way, you do have Wolverine being able to get rid of the robot. But after doing that, you did have Wolverine be confronted by Forge. Now, we do learn here that it's Wolverine and Forge, the two we saw in the far past in the 18th century. And we do learn here that after they were able to defeat the Adversary, they were sent back into the present day. So here they are now in the present day. But you did have Forge ask Wolverine, hey, what's in the box you're carrying, Logan? And so we learned that it's LCD. Now this explains the whole idea of why was Wolverine skeleton in the past, but also him being in the present day as well. So when it came to Wolverine and Forge of this timeline, they went back in time, right, to defeat the Adversary. After doing that, they were supposed to go back to their timeline, except when it came to this Wolverine, he fell out of the time vortex. 10 years after they had just defeated adversary in the 18th century. Now, when he had landed, he was severely injured. And so you had the tribe take the body of Wolverine and buried him. And so when it came to Albert and LCD, while they were helping out the present day Wolverine and Mystique and Spiral fighting against Mojo, when they saw that image of a dead Wolverine in the past, it was this one right here who had fallen out of the time vortex. The problem was that right after he was buried, his body got healed up, he got up and left. And so that explains why there was a body in the past when it came to Wolverine's skeleton. So yeah, it was a whole huge crazy storyline. But the book ends on the note where in this future, LCD, Wolverine, Forge, and also Albert are able to be all together once again for the first time in many, many, many years. But with that being said, guys, this is where we're going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.